The Make America Great Again movement reshaped Republican politics, toppled party elites, and turned Trump into the most influential figure in not only the United States, but the entire world. After last year's elections, it's undeniable that MAGA is bigger than it's ever been. Yet, it also feels more divided, which poses the question, is MAGA turning on Trump? And if that's the case, what are the reasons for it? This isn't a partisan take on this issue. We're fairly looking into this phenomenon because only then can we better understand the reality of the situation away from the media spin. In today's video, we'll kick things off by looking into what MAGA really is. Then take a look at 3 key situations from the past few months: the Iran strikes, the big beautiful bill, the handling of the Epstein case, and how each one of them affected the overall movement. To understand the current situation within MAGA, it's important that we take a look at how the movement started and evolved ever since Trump came down the golden escalator. Back then, Make America Great Again wasn't just a slogan, it was a rallying call. The phrase itself was borrowed from Ronald Reagan's 1980 campaign, resurrected by Trump to signal something entirely different: a rebellion against globalization, endless wars, and what millions of Americans felt was a rigged system. The original MAGA coalition was unusual. It wasn't built on traditional Republican donors or party elites. It drew blue-collar workers from the Rust Belt, Tea Party conservatives tied to GOP leadership, libertarians frustrated with foreign interventions, and independents angry at Washington elites. For many, Trump wasn't just a candidate. He was the anti-establishment wrecking ball they've been waiting for. Now, fast forward to 2025, and MAGA has taken over the GOP, and the numbers show it. An NBC poll found that 71% of Republicans call themselves MAGA supporters, while YouGov says that number peaked at 60% in March of this year. That's why the movement dominates Republican primaries, drives conservative media, and has its own ecosystem on influencers, podcasters, and power brokers. The base that once felt ignored now sets the agenda. But here's the paradox: an anti-establishment movement that became the establishment. That shift creates tension. And every major controversy now tests whether MAGA's loyalty is to Trump the man or to the core principles that attracted people to the movement in the first place. Now, one of the first visible cracks within MAGA appeared during the Iran strike in June of this year, when B-2 bombers carried out coordinated strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, the boldest U.S. action against the country in decades. Trump framed it as decisive leadership, protecting American interests, deterring nuclear threats, and calling it necessary and proportionate. But this time, the backlash didn't come from Democrats or mainstream media. It came from within his own base. And people were questioning if America first still meant avoiding entanglements abroad. Tucker Carlson publicly criticized the move on multiple instances and even had an interesting back and forth with Ted Cruz over it. Steve Bannon warned Trump about it, and Matt Walsh provided an interesting analysis in the aftermath of the strike, arguing that the focus should remain on fixing domestic issues rather than risking another forever war. In other words, for the non-interventionist faction of the movement, this felt like a betrayal of the campaign promises of not getting involved in forever wars. But here's where it gets interesting. CNN's chief data analyst, Harry Enton, ran a segment that referenced a couple of polls, which found that 76% of Republicans approved of the U.S. intervention and about 18% disapproved, which led Enton further commenting on the situation, saying, quote, "Tucker Carlson be darned. The bottom line is he does not speak for the majority of the Republican base. The majority of the base is with Donald Trump." But this incident revealed a deeper issue within MAGA. For the first time since 2016, loyalty to Trump wasn't enough to budge the gap over differences between populist isolationists and pro-military hawks within the movement. It also made clear that MAGA is no longer a single unified voice, but if foreign policy exposed cracks, the fight over the big beautiful bill ripped them wide open. See, for years, MAGA's energy has come from culture war battles. Issues like immigration, media bias, and woke corporations took the forefront, while fiscal matters often were in the backseat. But by 2025, ballooning deficits and national debt created a new, responsible populist wing inside the movement focused on cutting spending, and it was mainly spearheaded by Elon Musk. For them, the big beautiful bill was not draining the swamp, but rather feeding it. Although it delivered on multiple promises made by Trump on the campaign trail, like eliminating taxes on tips, boosting ICE funding to tighten border security, and extending the 2017 tax cuts. But it also came with a $5 trillion debt ceiling increase, in addition to the overall effect on the deficit. Elon Musk publicly called it out on his X account, describing it as a, quote, massive, outrageous pork field and a disgusting abomination. Elon, really? Come on, tell us how you really feel here. And it escalated even further, leading to the public spat we saw between Musk and Trump. But it didn't stop there. Behind the scenes, Republican lawmakers were equally divided. The Senate passed the bill only after J.D. Vance and Trump personally lobbied skeptical members, with J.D. ultimately casting the tie-breaking vote. In the House, Representative Thomas Massie claimed he had 10 votes lined up to block the bill, which again took a massive lobbying effort to pass. As expected, this divide translated directly into polling. A Fox News story found that 73% of Republicans favored the bill, but nearly 3/4 of independents opposed it. Now that's a troubling sign for Trump, who carried 48% of them in the last election. The fight revealed something deeper than one budget vote. MAGA is no longer united. It's grappling with what it means to govern, not just oppose. Then came the Epstein Case, the deepest fracture yet. For months, Trump and key figures in his circle hinted at a bombshell, a so-called Epstein client list that would expose powerful elites. Pam Bondi repeated it on multiple interviews, framing it as proof that Trump's fight against the swamp wasn't over. The promise of accountability became a rallying cry, a way to prove that MAGA, unlike the establishment, would name names. But just last month, the Department of Justice publicly stated that there was no client list. Not a redacted one, not a hidden one, none at all. Overnight, a centerpiece MAGA talking point collapsed, leaving the movement scrambling to understand what just happened. This issue wasn't just about scandal, it was about trust. Not so long ago, celebrities and billionaires who backed Kamala Harris were accused of doing so out of fear of being exposed on that list. Now, with the DOJ's denial, many people are left wondering, was the list ever real? Or was it just political theater? When we look at the polls, numbers prove just how divisive this issue is. According to Axios, just 40% of Republicans approve of how this case is being handled, while 35% disapprove. It's clear that this issue is different from the Iran strike or the budget fight. And an argument could be made that it threatens the stability of the MAGA movement. We started this video with the following question: is MAGA turning on Trump? And if that's the case, what are the reasons for it? The answer depends on what you mean by turning. If you define it as people voicing their criticism over issues, then yes. But there are other factors to consider here. Perhaps the real question is what happens if MAGA turns on him? A movement this large rarely disappears. It morphs into something new. In 2016, MAGA was Trump's creation. By 2025, it might be bigger than Trump himself. It's a political identity with factions, influencers, and power centers he can't always control. And that's the real test of what comes next. So this is our first attempt at what we call a deep dive, trying to get to the root and go deeper into the subjects. Let me know what you think. Did you like it? Are there any specific topics you want us to tackle? Let me know in the comments below.